Hi there, my name is James, and in this video, I'm going to teach you how to play Netrunner with Null Signal Games' System Gateway set. Netrunner is an asymmetrical card game where one player plays as a hacker, known as a runner, and the other player plays as a megacorporation, or Corp. Both players begin the game with their identity in play. In normal play, identities will belong to a specific faction and will have specific game text that provides the player with an ongoing ability throughout the game. For the sake of simplicity, both of the starter game identities in Null Signal's System Gateway starter deck have no additional game-modifying text. In order to win the game, the runner must steal agendas from the Corp, while the Corp player needs to score those same agendas, all the while protecting their servers from the runner. Always starting with the corporation's turn first, the Corp and the runner will alternate taking turns until the requisite number of agenda points are either scored or stolen. In a normal game, the first player to score or steal 7 points worth of agendas wins the game. However, this demonstration is going to use the smaller starter decks found in Null Signal's System Gateway set, and in these starter decks, only 6 points are required to win the game. This is an example of an agenda. Agendas are only found in the corporation player's deck. The number in the bottom left here is how many points the agenda is worth. The number in the top right is how many times the agenda needs to be advanced by the corporation player before it can be scored. I'll go over more on advancing agendas later. Some agendas have an effect that occurs when they are scored or stolen. This agenda awards the corporation player with 7 credits when the agenda is scored. This is the symbol for credits. Credits are the primary resource in Netrunner used to pay for cards and other game effects. Both players begin the game with 5 credits. You'll want to use some sort of token to keep track of each player's pool of credits. Dice or poker chips will work fine. Both players will draw 5 cards for their opening hand. If either player is not satisfied with their opening hand, they can mulligan one time by shuffling their hand into their deck and drawing a new hand of 5 cards. Let's go over the different types of cards that the corporation player might see in their opening hand. This card is an operation. Operations are the only type of card that the corporation will play face up. All other types of corp cards should enter play face down. In the top left is the credit cost for the corporation to play this card. So this card costs 5 credits to play, but gives back 9 credits for a net gain of 4 credits. Not too bad. Once an operation has been played, it should go into the corporation's discard pile, which is also known as archives. Let's look again at the agenda card type. An agenda can be installed by placing it face down like this. This is known as creating a new remote server. There is no limit to the number of remote servers the corporation may create. Remote servers are the only place the corporation can install and eventually score agenda cards. There are 2 types of servers, remote servers and central servers. Remote servers will be created and possibly removed throughout the course of the game, but the corporation always has 3 central servers. The first of these central servers is represented by the corporation's identity card, and is referred to as headquarters, or just HQ. The next central server is the Corp's draw deck, which is known as research and development, or more commonly just R&D. And the final central server is the Corp's discard pile, which is known as archives. All 3 of these central servers always exist, even if the Corp's archives are empty. Now let's look at a new type of card, ICE. ICE is what the corporation will use to protect their servers from the runner. ICE is installed face down and placed oriented horizontally above the server the Corp wishes to protect. When the runner encounters a piece of ice, the Corp can optionally activate that ice by flipping it over. This is known as resing the ice. If they do so, the Corp must pay the res cost in credits printed in the top left. Ice also has at least one subtype. This one is a barrier. Ice has a base strength. This one is 2 strength. And a list of subroutines. I'll explain more about ice subtypes, strength, and subroutines when we get to talking about the runner cards. Ice can also have game text. This one gets +2 strength while it's protecting a remote server, so it's a good option for the Corp to use to protect the agenda that was installed in the remote server earlier. Multiple ice can be installed to protect the same server by installing new ice above previously existing ice. When this happens, the corporation must pay 1 credit for each ice that was previously installed on that server. This server now has 2 pieces of ice protecting it. If the corporation wishes to install another new piece of ice on the server, the Corp must first pay 2 credits. When installing new ice on a server that already has ice installed, the Corp may optionally trash any number of previously installed ice to reduce the install cost of the new ice. If the Corp chooses to trash previous ice, that ice enters archives face down if it was previously face down, and face up if it was previously face up. The next corporation card type is an asset. Similar to agendas, assets are also installed in remote servers, but a remote server can only contain one asset or one agenda, never both at the same time. The corporation does have the option to overwrite or replace the card present in a remote server. If this is done, once the new card is installed, the old card is placed in archives. If that old card was still face down, it enters archives face down. If it was face up, it enters archives face up. Similar to ICE, the corporation can res assets by paying the res cost in credits shown in the top left of the card. When an asset is resed, its game text becomes active. Unlike ICE, which can only be resed when the runner encounters it, the Corp player can res assets whenever they like. Strictly speaking, this isn't true, but for the sake of learning how to play the starter game, allowing the Corp to res assets whenever they like will work fine. The number in the bottom right is known as the trash cost, and can be paid by the runner when accessing the card in order to trash it. More on accessing cards when we talk about the runner side, but once the runner trashes a card, it gets placed in archives face up. The final corporation card type is an upgrade. Upgrades work very similarly to assets, but unlike assets, which must be installed in remote servers, upgrades can be installed in any server, even central servers. In remote servers, they can be installed by themselves or alongside an agenda or an asset. There's also no limit to the number of upgrades that can be installed in a server. Just like assets, upgrades have a credit res cost in the top left and a runner trash cost in the bottom right. This upgrade reads, whenever the runner approaches this server, end the run, unless they spend 2 clicks or pay 5 credits. This is the symbol for clicks. On every turn, each player is afforded a certain number of actions they can take. These actions are known as clicks, and they represent the passage of time in-game. The runner has 4 clicks to spend on their turn, while the corporation gets only 3. However, the corporation always takes a mandatory card draw from the top of R&D to begin their turn, whereas the runner gets no such automatic card draw. Let's look at what the corporation can do with the 3 clicks on their turn. We're going to ignore these bottom 2 options for now because situations in which they become relevant will never occur in our starter game. So starting at the top, they can spend one of their click actions to gain 1 credit. Pretty simple. They can also spend a click to draw a card from the top of R&D into their hand, which again is known as HQ. They can click to play 1 operation from HQ, which, as a reminder, is the only corporation card type played face up. And they can click to install an agenda asset upgrade or ICE from HQ, which again is installed face down. And finally, they can click and pay 1 credit to advance an installed card. When a card is advanced, place a token on it each time so you can keep track of how many advancements it has. This is how the corporation scores agendas. Once an agenda has a number of advancements equal to its advancement requirement, the corporation can score that agenda by flipping it over and adding it to their score area. Some assets and some ICE can be advanced as well, but the Corp can only advance assets and ICE that have game text that specifically mentions that the card can be advanced. Once a player has spent all of their clicks, they must discard down to the hand size limit of 5 cards. Any corporation cards discarded this way enter archives face down. Now let's take a look at the runner side. Their draw pile is known as the stack, their discard pile is known as the heap, and their hand is known as the grip. Now let's look at the card types in the runner's deck. This is an event, and it's the counterpart to the Corp's operation card type. There's a play cost in credits in the top left, and some game text that occurs when the event is played. Once an event is played, it gets placed in the heap. This is a resource. Resources have an install cost in credits in the top left, but unlike events which get placed in the heap after they're played, resources remain on the table until a game effect instructs them to be trashed. This resource's game text reads, when you install this resource, load 9 credits onto it. When it is empty, trash it. It also has what's known as a paid ability, where the runner can spend 1 click to take 3 credits from this resource. Now, let's look at a program. Once again, this has an install cost in credits in the top left, and programs do remain on the table after being installed, but programs also have a memory unit cost, or MU cost, listed here in the top left. Nearly every runner identity in Netrunner starts the game with an MU limit of 4, but if you ever want to double check your identity's starting MU limit, it can be found listed in the top left here. If the runner ever has installed programs with an MU cost that exceeds the runner's MU limit, they must trash installed programs until they no longer exceed the MU limit. This program also has the subtype of Icebreaker Fractor. Icebreakers are how the runner can get past the ice, defending the corporation's servers. There are three main types of ice: barriers, code gates, and sentries. The specific type of ice the runner's icebreaker is capable of breaking is listed after the interface text here. This icebreaker is only capable of breaking barrier ice. An icebreaker also has a starting strength listed here in the bottom left. I'll have some more examples on how icebreakers work a little later, but for now let's go over the final card type in the runner's deck: hardware. Once again, you guessed it, the number in the top left is the install cost in credits, and just like resources and programs, hardware remains on the table after being installed. This hardware has a subtype of console, and the runner can only have one console installed at a time. This hardware also grants the runner +1 MU limit, which is handy if the runner plans to install a lot of programs. Now let's look at what the runner can do with the 4 clicks they're allotted on their turn. Once again, we're going to ignore this bottom option for now because this scenario will never occur in our starter game. So just like the Corp player, the runner has the option of spending 1 click to gain 1 credit and spending 1 click to draw 1 card. They can also spend a click to play an event from their hand, which is known as the grip, and they can spend 1 click to install 1 program, resource, or hardware from the grip. Finally, the runner can spend 1 click to run any server. And finally, we've arrived at the most important part of Netrunner, where you actually get to run on the net. Let's go over how to initiate a run. First, the runner declares the attacked server. The runner can attack any central server, that's HQ, R&D, and archives, and any remote server that the corporation has created. Let's say the runner chooses to attack R&D. If a run on R&D is successful, the runner is allowed to access the top card of R&D. If the accessed card is an agenda, the runner steals that agenda and scores the listed agenda points. If instead the card has a trash cost, the runner can spend credits equal to the trash cost to trash that card to the Corp's archives. If the card is neither an agenda nor has a trash cost, the runner must return that card, in this case, to the top of R&D. The runner would then also access any upgrades in the root of R&D, but let's say the runner instead chose to run on HQ. If a run on HQ is successful, the runner can access a random card from the Corp's hand. Just as before, if it's an agenda, the runner steals it, and if it has a trash cost, the runner can trash it. The runner also accesses any upgrades installed on the root of HQ. Now, let's say the runner chose to run on archives. This is an option available to the runner even if the Corp has no cards in archives. If the run is successful, when the runner accesses cards, the runner accesses every single card in archives, including any upgrades installed in the root. Now obviously these cards have already been trashed, so paying the trash cost here isn't relevant. But some crafty corporation players might be hiding agendas in archives. Now let's say the runner runs a remote server. If the run is successful, the runner accesses all cards in that server. So if there was an agenda with an upgrade installed as well, the runner would access both cards in an order of the runner's choosing. That might have been a lot to take in all at once, so let's walk through a quick sample game with some examples of the concepts I discussed. Both players begin the game with 5 credits and 5 cards in hand. Neither player decides to mulligan. As always, the Corp player goes first and begins their turn with a mandatory card draw. The Corp's first click is to play a hedge fund operation, spending 5 credits but gaining 9 for a net gain of 4 credits. Second click, the Corp decides to create a new remote server by installing face down an off-world office agenda. The Corp's third click is to install a palisade ice protecting that remote server. It's now the end of the corporation's turn and they have less than 5 cards in HQ and therefore don't need to discard any cards. Now it's the runner's turn. First click, they play a sure gamble event and gain 4 credits. Second click, they decide to run HQ. There's no ice protecting HQ, so the run is successful. The runner now has the option to access a card or jack out and end the run. But the runner definitely wants to see what the Corp's up to in HQ, and they choose to access and see a random card from the Corp's hand. The runner accesses a piece of ice called Tithe. This is not an agenda and therefore can't be stolen. It has no trash cost, so it's returned to HQ. Third click, the runner runs R&D and chooses to access, seeing the top card. It's an asset called Nico Campaign that can give the Corp credits once it's installed. The runner decides to trash it, paying the asset's trash cost. Last click, the runner decides to run the remote server. Before the runner can access any cards in the remote server, the runner must first pass through all of the ice protecting that server, approaching each piece of ice one at a time, starting with the outermost ice and working inwards. But this server has only one piece of ice protecting it. When the runner approaches a piece of ice, the corporation has the option of whether or not to res that ice. If the Corp chooses not to res a piece of ice, the runner passes it automatically. But here, the Corp does decide to res the palisade, paying its res cost in the top left. The runner has no programs currently installed that are capable of breaking barriers, so the runner is forced to let all of the subroutines on the palisade fire. Unbroken subroutines fire one at a time in order from top to bottom, but this ice has only one subroutine, which fires and ends the run. The runner ends their turn with 4 cards in hand, under the hand limit of 5, and does not need to discard. Now it's the Corp's turn again. The Corp begins their turn by taking a mandatory card draw. First click, the Corp installs the Tithe Ice that the runner accessed on the previous turn, protecting R&D. Second click, the Corp uses the basic action to click for 1 credit. Last click, the Corp beefs up security on the remote server by installing a second palisade, paying 1 credit because there was already 1 piece of ice protecting that server. It's the end of the Corp's turn, and they do not need to discard any cards. It's the runner's turn again. First click, the runner installs an icebreaker program called Cleaver, capable of breaking barrier-type ice. Second click, the runner decides to make a run on the remote server. The runner encounters the outermost piece of ice first, which the Corp decides to res. The runner's Cleaver is capable of interfacing with this ice and breaking barrier subroutines, but only if the icebreaker's strength matches or exceeds the strength of this ice. Palisade has a base strength of 2, but since it's protecting a remote server, it gets plus 2 strength, for a total of 4 strength. The runner's Cleaver is only 3 strength, so the runner has to spend 2 credits to boost the strength of the Cleaver up to 4. Now that the Cleaver's strength is equal to the Palisade's strength, the runner can use it to interface with the ice and break the subroutine by spending 1 more credit. In total, the runner has now spent 3 credits to break the palisade with their Cleaver, 2 credits to boost strength, and 1 credit to break the subroutine. Now, between ice encounters, the runner is afforded the option to continue the run or jack out. The runner chooses to continue. The runner has only 1 credit remaining, which is not enough to break the second palisade. This is because the icebreaker's strength resets with each encounter of a piece of ice, meaning that it would cost another 3 credits to boost the strength of the Cleaver and break the subroutine. So the runner has no choice but to let the subroutine fire, which ends the run. With their third click, the runner plays an event called Jailbreak. Jailbreak reads, run HQ or R&D. If successful, draw 1 card, and when you breach the attack server, access 1 additional card. The runner chooses to use Jailbreak to attack R&D. The Corp chooses to res Tithe, which has 2 subroutines. Although the runner does have a Cleaver installed, the Cleaver is not capable of breaking Sentry-type ice. During a run, the runner is unable to spend clicks to perform actions, including installing new cards to their rig, so the runner is forced to let all subroutines on Tithe fire. The first subroutine reads, do 1 net damage. Whenever the runner suffers damage, the Corp randomly trashes 1 card from the runner's hand, 1 at a time for each damage they've taken. If the runner ever takes damage more than the amount of cards in their hand, the runner is considered to be flatlined, and the corporation immediately wins. But this runner has 2 cards in hand and takes only 1 damage from this subroutine, so the Corp randomly trashes 1 of the runner's cards. The second subroutine fires, giving the Corp 1 credit. The runner has now passed the ice. Notably, none of the subroutines on Tithe say to end the run, so the runner is allowed to continue the run even though they were unable to break Tithe. The run is now considered to be successful, so Jailbreak allows the runner to draw 1 card, and they will access 1 additional card from R&D, which means the runner will access the top 2 cards. The first card accessed is a seamless launch operation. It's not an agenda and it has no trash cost, so it remains on the top of R&D. The runner accesses a second card from R&D due to Jailbreak. It's an agenda, nice. The runner steals it and scores 3 points. This agenda has the text, when this agenda is scored or stolen, you may res 1 installed piece of ice ignoring all costs. Unfortunately, the Corp has already resed all of the ice currently installed on the table. With their last click, the runner decides to play a VRcation operation to draw 4 cards. This is their final click, so they don't have to lose any additional clicks due to playing VRcation. It's the Corp's turn again. The Corp draws the Seamless Launch operation. First click, the corporation plays Seamless Launch by paying 1 credit and adding 2 advancement tokens to the off-world office agenda in the remote server. The corporation then uses the basic action to click twice and advance that agenda 2 times, spending 2 credits. The agenda now has the requisite number of advancements to score, so the Corp flips it over and adds it to their score area, gaining 2 points. Off-world office also gains the corporation 7 credits when scored. The corporation ends their turn and does not need to discard any cards. Back in Runner World, the runner's economy is in shambles after spending all their money last turn, and now the runner needs to figure out how to make some quick cash. First click, the runner installs Smartware Distributor. Second click, the runner clicks Smartware Distributor to load 3 credits onto it. The runner then spends their third click using the basic action to gain 1 credit. With their final click, the runner plays Creative Commission for a net gain of 4 credits. The Corp begins their turn by mandatorily drawing an Urtica Cipher asset, and the Corp hatches a devious plan. The Corp installs the Urtica Cipher in the remote server and spends their second click to advance it. Last click, the Corp installs a Managarm Skunkworks upgrade in the root of R&D. At the beginning of the runner's turn, the runner remembers to gain 1 credit from the Smartware Distributor installed on the previous turn. First click, the runner plays a sure gamble, solving their financial woes for now. On their second click, the runner installs a Mayfly Icebreaker, capable of breaking any subtype of ice. Third click, the runner runs R&D. Since Mayfly's strength is equal to the Tithe's strength, there's no need for the runner to boost strength, so the runner spends 1 credit to break the first subroutine, but lets the second one fire, which allows the Corp to gain 1 credit. But before the runner accesses a card on R&D, the Corp reses the Managarm Skunkworks upgrade. This upgrade reads, whenever the runner approaches this server, end the run unless they spend either 2 clicks or pay 5 credits. The runner is considered to be approaching the server now, which is after passing all ice protecting the server, but before accessing any cards. The runner is left with the option of spending 2 clicks, paying 5 credits, or ending the run. Since the runner spent their third click initiating this run on R&D, they don't have 2 clicks to spend, so the runner instead decides to pay 5 credits. The runner accesses the top card of R&D. It's an agenda worth 2 points, putting the runner at 5 agenda points. In this game played with starter decks, only 6 points are required to win, meaning the runner is only 1 point away from victory. The runner then accesses the Managarm Skunkworks upgrade, but chooses not to trash it, so Managarm Skunkworks remains installed on R&D. The runner must now trash their Mayfly Icebreaker due to its game text. Believing the winning agenda is installed in the remote server, the runner wants to run the remote, but is once again low on credits. Luckily, the runner has an operation called Overclock in their grip, which will work nicely here. Overclock reads, place 5 credits on this event, then run any server. You can spend hosted credits during that run. On their last click, the runner plays Overclock and chooses to run the remote server. The runner spends 3 credits from Overclock to boost Cleaver and break the subroutine of the first Palisade. The runner chooses to continue on to the second Palisade and spends the last 2 credits from Overclock to boost the Cleaver and their final credit from their pool to break the subroutine. The runner then chooses to access the card in the remote server, and they are horrified to see that it's an Urtica Cipher that will deal them 3 damage. Because the runner took damage greater than the number of cards left in their grip, which is 0 in this case, they are flatlined, and the Corp wins the game. One rule we didn't cover is that in the unlikely event that the Corp begins their turn with 0 cards in R&D, the runner immediately wins the game. And that's all you should need to know to start playing Netrunner with the System Gateway starter decks. In the next video, I'll go over some advanced rules and concepts that we didn't cover here, and go over how to start building your first deck.